deep in the vibrant streets of Phuket, Thailand, a bustling tourist destination known for its stunning beaches and vibrant nightlife. A chilling tale unfolded. Emma, a young traveler filled with wanderlust, found herself entangled in a web of danger she could never have imagined. One evening, as Emma strolled through the lively night market, she caught the attention of a charismatic local named Ko. He possessed a charming smile and silver tongue that seemed to wave a spell around her. Ko offered to show Emma the hidden gems of Phuket, promising an unforgettable adventure. Intrigued by the allure of the unknown, Emma agreed, unaware of the darkness lurking beneath Ko's charming facade. They set off on a journey that would forever change her life. Ko led Emma away from the familiar tourist spots, deep into a labyrinth of alleys and shadowy corners of Phuket. With each step, the atmosphere grew increasingly foreboding, as if every air whispered of imminent danger. As they wandered deeper into the night, Emma's instincts began to tingle, warning her of impending danger. She suddenly noticed a subtle shift in Ko's demeanor, his once charming smile replaced by a sinister grin. Panic began to bubble within her, but escape seemed impossible. In the unfamiliar streets, Emma suddenly found herself surrounded by a group of menacing figures emerging from the darkness. Fear gripped her heart as she realized she had stumbled into a den of criminals, their intentions sinister and unclear. They grabbed Emma, their grip tight and unforgiving. She struggled and fought, her desperate cries lost in the chaos of the city's bustling nightlife. The captors dragged her through the dimly lit alleyways, their terrifying laughter echoing in her ears. Blindfolded and disoriented, Emma lost all sense of time and direction. They imprisoned her in a hidden location, a dank and windowless room that reeked of disrepair. The wall seemed to close in on her, suffocating any shred of hope she held onto. Days turned to weeks as Emma endured unimaginable torment, trapping her in a world of darkness and fear. Her spirit withered, but a tiny flame of determination flickered within her, refusing to be extinguished. One fateful night, her captors grew complacent. A stroke of luck illuminated her path to freedom. Emma managed to loosen her restraints, summoned every ounce of strength to escape the confines of the prison. Now that she was free, she crept through the old building, avoiding the watchful eyes of her captors. Every creaking floorboard and distant murmur amplified her terror, urging her to move faster. She could taste the sweet air of liberation on the tip of her tongue. Finally, she burst through a door and found herself outside. The cool night air, a balm to her tormented soul. Emma ran through the dimly lit streets, fueled by a determination born out of survival. Through sheer luck and kindness of a stranger, Emma found her way to safety. The local authorities were alerted, launching a thorough investigation to dismantle the criminal network responsible for her abduction. Although Emma emerged physically scarred and emotionally broken, her story became a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic places. Her tale serves as a cautionary reminder to travelers, urging them to remain vigilant and aware, even in the most enchanting corners of the world. When meeting somebody in a strange place, be careful. They could be leading you into a trap. We had a massive group with us, and we were headed to a Tiesto concert in Shinkiba in Tokyo. The club was called Ageha. The club could hold 5,000 people and was an epic party destination. Sadly, it closed in 2022, but we had one of the most crazy and unsettling nights of our lives. Our group consisted of 25 guys and one Korean girl that was dating one of the guys they called Wild Bill. Wild Bill, that's me, was a party animal that put this whole thing together, always trying to outdo the last epic party with a new and better one with more people. Soo-yun was in love with Wild Bill, and she was living in Japan and going to college, and really figuring out if Japanese people did not like Koreans. The answer is yes and no. While she did have many friends that were Japanese, There were a few businesses that would refuse her service because of her nationality, even though she spoke fluent Japanese. But because of her language ability, everyone in the group was asking her to translate this and that. After an hour and a half of 25 Americans drinking Chuhais on the train, the locals were happy to see us all leave when we got to our destination. We got to Ageha and skipped the massive line for Tiesto tickets with our VIP backstage passes. This was gonna be epic. The show started and it was mayhem. Lights flashing and loud music. We all started out together, but we were slowly separated due to huge waves of crowds engulfing our group. The concert wrapped up, and there were still 3 hours until the train started back up. Our massive group regrouped, and we headed to the rooftop bar with a pool in the middle of the bar. We were all having drinks, talking about the concert when one of our guys, Isaac, sees a guy punch a girl in the face from a distance. He immediately jumps up and gets in the guy's face. The guy lets go of the girl and gets in Isaac's face. There were 6 of us watching this from a distance, ready to pounce. The showdown ended with Isaac punching the guy right in the nose. When that happened, 4 big guys stood up at a nearby table and jumped on Isaac. Our group was instantly reunited, with all 25 of us coming out of everywhere to jump on these guys. We rescued Isaac and beat those guys down until they begged for us to stop. The security rounded all of us up, including the girl, and questioned us. It turns out that this girl was under duress by this group of guys. They took her passport and were holding her hostage for weeks. She couldn't escape. The thing that saved her that night was the fact that we had so many guys with us. The 4 guys that we beat were massive and would not have gone down any other way than a full swarm. I hear that girl still writes to Isaac to tell him how much she appreciates him stepping in when he saw a woman get punched at a rooftop bar. When you see something wrong, do something about it. As the sun set on a quiet autumn evening, 4 friends gathered in a dimly lit room. They were eager to try out the Ouija board they had purchased earlier that day. The board was a dark wood and had the letters of the alphabet inscribed on it, along with the numbers and a few common words such as yes, no, and goodbye. When they bought the Ouija board, the friends were warned by the store clerk that Ouija boards are not to be taken lightly, and they should be careful with the spirits they might invite. The group laughed it off and started to set up the board at a small table. The youngest of the group, Julie, seemed a bit uneasy about playing with the board. She had heard stories about people being possessed by demons or encountering malevolent spirits. However, her friends convinced her that it was just a game and that they would be in control of the spirits. As they placed their hand on the planchette, they began to ask questions. At first, the answers were simple and seemed to be random letters or numbers. As they continued to ask more questions, the answers became more specific and sometimes downright eerie. The group asked who was communicating with them, and the planchette spelled out the name, Samuel. They asked Samuel if he was a good spirit, and the planchette moved to yes. They asked more questions, and Samuel revealed that he had been a soldier during the American Civil War and had died in battle. The group became more engrossed in the conversation with Samuel and started to ask more personal questions. Suddenly, the planchette started moving rapidly, and the group realized that they had lost control of the board. The room became cold and dark, and the group felt a presence in the room that wasn't there before. They heard strange noises and whispers that seemed to be coming from all directions. Julie started to cry, begging the others to stop the game. The planchette continued to move, on its own now. Suddenly, the board flew off the table and the planchette shattered into several pieces. The room had become silent, and the group was too afraid to speak. They quickly gathered their belongings and left the room, vowing never to play with Ouija boards again. Days turned to weeks, and during that time, the group noticed strange occurrences around them. Julie claimed that she saw a dark figure lurking outside of her window at night. Another friend reported that he had nightmares about demons and spirits. The group realized that they had opened a portal to the other side, but now they were being haunted by the spirits that they had summoned. They tried everything they could to rid themselves of the spirits, but nothing seemed to work. They sought the help of a psychic medium who performed a cleansing ritual on all the friends. After that, the spirits seemed to have gone. The group was forever changed by the encounter with the Ouija board. They realized that they had taken something very powerful for granted and had paid the price for it. Years later, the group decided to revisit the old room where they had played the Ouija board. They found the room empty, but they could still feel a presence there. They decided to perform another cleansing ritual and made peace with the spirits that they had summoned. They realized that a Ouija board is not just a game, but a powerful tool to connect us to the other side. It isn't something to be taken lightly, but something to be respected and used with great care. From that day on, they vowed never to play with the Ouija board again, and they would always remember the lesson that they had learned. If you're at Walmart and you see a Ouija board, don't get it. Get Monopoly instead. Emily, who had just moved to a new city, being single and wanting to meet new people, decided to use Tinder to meet someone. At first, Emily thought the app was just like any other dating app she had ever used before. She swiped right on a few profiles and matched with a few guys. However, things quickly took a turn for the worse. One night, Emily was scrolling through her matches when she came across a profile that caught her eye. The profile picture was of a handsome man with piercing blue eyes and a charming smile. His name was Adam, and he seemed like the perfect match for Emily. Excited to start a conversation with Adam, Emily sent him a message. However, she never received a response. She assumed that he was just not interested, so she moved on. She was disappointed, but she thought it just wasn't meant to be. One day, Emily received a new notification from Tinder saying that she had a new match. She opened the app to find that it was Adam, the guy she had tried to match with previously. Excited to finally have a chance to talk to him, she sent him a message. She received a response almost immediately. This gave Emily a lot of relief. Adam asked her if she could switch to Telegram. Emily did not think that was an issue, so she downloaded Telegram and found Adam. They started chatting. As they were messaging each other back and forth, Adam was charming and funny, and Emily felt like she had finally found someone who truly understood her. They chatted for hours every day, and Emily found herself becoming more and more attracted to him. However, things started to get strange. Emily noticed that Adam would never send her pictures of himself, and whenever she asked to video chat, he always had an excuse. She even tried to search for him in other social media sites, but she couldn't find any account linked to his name. One day, Emily received a message from Adam that sent shivers down her spine. He told her that he had been watching her, that he knew everything about her, and that she was his. Emily was terrified and immediately unmatched him on Tinder. However, that was just the beginning of her nightmare. Emily started receiving strange phone calls from unknown numbers, and when she answered, all she could hear was heavy breathing on the other end. She started to notice that she was being followed by somebody whenever she went out. When she went out, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone is out there watching her every move. Emily tried to ignore the paranoia, but things only got worse. One night, she woke up to find her front door was open, even though she was certain she had locked it before going to bed. She also noticed that her phone was missing. She got on her MacBook to log into her various sites and all over her social media accounts. She saw that she had been hacked, somebody spreading false messages about her. The messages were making her out to be some sort of slut. She contacted the police, but they couldn't do anything without solid proof. Terrified for her safety, Emily decided to put a request to relocate for her job to a different city and just start over. As she settled into her new apartment in a new city, she still couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still out there watching her every move. Years went by, and Emily had almost forgotten about the traumatic experience she had on Tinder. That was until one day, when she received a notification from Tinder. Her phone had reinstalled it without her knowledge and reinstated her profile. She slowly opened the app to look at the match. It was a profile picture of a man with piercing blue eyes and a charming smile. Emily felt like she was going to be sick. She immediately deleted the app and threw her phone across the room. She knew that she could never trust anyone on Tinder again. If someone wants to immediately go to another app, there could be a nefarious reason. Maybe they don't want anyone to see what they are about to do. It was a typical Wednesday night, and I was settling into bed, exhausted from a long day of classes and studying. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, I heard a faint noise coming from the other side of the house. I sat up and listened, but the sound stopped. I assumed it was just my roommate getting up to go to the bathroom, so I laid back down and tried to fall asleep. I was asleep for a while when I was woken up abruptly by a loud thud, like someone dropped a large object. Startled, I looked around my room in the darkness and saw nothing. I turned on the lights, using a lamp on my nightstand, but did not see anything out of place in my room. I considered that I might have dreamt about the loud bang. I fell back asleep. When I had just entered my deep sleep for the second time, I heard something in the hallway again. It sounded like soft footsteps, slowly pacing back and forth across the hallway. I got up again and tried to see if I could see anything in the dark hallway, but it was too dark and I couldn't make out any shapes. I tried to ignore the noise and go back to sleep, but it was no use. I kept hearing the footsteps, which seemed to be getting louder and more frequent. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with the situation. What's going on, I thought. The noise was louder than anything that should be happening at 2 o'clock at night, when some people have to work the next day. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I got out of bed, turned the lights on in the hallway. Unfortunately, I found out what was making the noise. I saw my roommate pacing back and forth in the hallway. He looked like a maniac, pacing back and forth quickly over and over again. With the light on, he must have seen me, but he didn't react to me. He was just staring forward with an angry look on his face. He was flush red. I tried to say something to him to break his trance, but it was no use. I was pleading with him to stop because I couldn't sleep. There was no response. He just kept pacing the hallway. When I tried to physically stop him from pacing, he knocked me down and kept walking. He was totally out of his mind. That was the last straw for me. I called campus security and they arrived in 8 minutes. The officer saw him pacing and did not know what to do either. He did not respond to the request to stop and talk to the police. They pulled out their tasers and threatened him with a shock if he did not stop, but there was no reply. The officers reluctantly shot him with a taser, but it was no use. He was still walking, like the taser did absolutely nothing to him. I was so freaked out at this point, I had to step outside in the hallway to catch my breath. I heard a loud commotion and ran back in the room. There I saw my roommate was on the floor and the 2 officers were on top of him. He was thrashing around violently, like a maniac. They put him in handcuffs and put him in the back of a police car after multiple attempts of attempted escape from custody. It turns out my roommate had been at a party and was given a mysterious substance. He apparently went crazy at the party and was kicked out. He came back to the dorm and was thinking about how all the people at the party were terrible human beings and how he would get his revenge on them. With his mind altered, it allowed him to descend into madness and stay there for a long time. He also had a rough family upbringing as well. That was probably causing him to have more of an emotional breakdown due to what he was on than normal people. I moved out and never saw that roommate again. Although I felt bad, I moved out and never saw that roommate again. I do feel guilty, but I did not feel safe in that situation. What could he have done to me in my sleep? Fortunately, I will never know. When you have a roommate, get to know them well, so there are not surprises down the road. If you don't know them, you don't know what they're capable of.